Yes, guys, I am back, and man, have we got a lot to talk about. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And I decided to take last week off, right, because it's the first time I've taken a week off in over 3 months, or like anything more than a day. And of course, that's the week where we get news bomb after bomb after bomb, and there's games that are difficult, and oh man, there's so much to talk about. But guys, as I'm back, you remember the drill. If you are enjoying my content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking or sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so I'm going to start with the Brentford game, right, because that is obviously the most kind of recent thing that's probably going to be on most people's lips. Now, full disclosure, I didn't get to watch the game, but I have watched highlights, I've researched thoroughly, and I have my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the game in general. So it is obviously disappointing, right? The 2-2 right at the last minute as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, we should have wrapped the game up. 100% we should have wrapped the game up. There are many fair, reasonable calls as why this was, a letdown from Chelsea's side rather than it be Brentford being so good. But, you know, for me, man, there's just so many things to consider. Or, you know, the international break's just finished and we've still got new signings that are bedding in. And ultimately, I think the thing that you look at, for me, the first thing I look at is first 4 games unbeaten, right? You know what I mean? We're not losing any of these games. That's really good. So Brentford, I actually had Brentford as going down this year, and maybe I was wrong in that because they did seem fairly resilient in this game. So let's just talk about the positives first, right? Let's talk about the positives. It's easy to talk about the negatives because we didn't win the game. The positive is a point is a point, right? And my general assertion, if you've been watching my channel, if you've seen me on the Blue Lounge or any of the collabs that I've done pertaining to Chelsea's Premier League title charge this season and our chances of winning the glorious silverware over that 38 games, you'll know that I don't necessarily think that it's on the cards for us, man. I still see a team massively in transition. I still see a dynasty and an empire that is being built rather than that is ready to go out there and take over the world, right? And little results like this are 100% the reason why. Like, if we were ready, we put them to the sword today, 100%. And we're not ready, man. We're absolutely not ready. You know, the depth that we've got is looking really good, but they don't all know their roles and their places yet. And it's just, for me, like, this is symptomatic of the reason that we will not finish at the very top of the Premier League. When I was initially doing my predictions, I thought an amazing season for us would be to finish second. And I guess maybe that could still happen, depending on what else goes on. But I look around and I see Man City starting to come back to life, and Arsenal were playing really well. And, you know, even Tottenham, you've got to worry about a little bit just getting into those Champions League spots. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's fair to say that I was not super surprised by this, although I was disappointed. Of course I was. I'm not super surprised because these little things that, you know, not putting these games to bed is the difference between the guys that win and the guys that finish runner-up, and I still don't 100% think we're there. The international break has been a huge part of that. We've lost more players. Do you know what I mean? Dario Asugo's out, so that's more of a depth issue. You can see that again because although we started like, you know, Yoro Hato and, you know, Jamie Gittins and, you know, all these other guys kind of got these starts, ultimately we are still putting Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez starting these games, which is a bit of a worry, especially from the Caicedo thing, right? Because obviously he missed some time while he was away with Ecuador, and he didn't train up until the Fulham game. Do you know what I mean? He literally, you know, and it's all been a bit worrying with Caicedo as well. So we still don't have enough depth across the squad to be able to not have to put Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez in the midfield for a game like this when we've got Bayern Munich and Man United coming up. Do you know what I mean? So yes, we've spent a lot of money, man. We've spent a lot of money. Of course we have. We spent an outrageous amount of money. But at the same time, it's just, I just don't think we're there, man. Do you know what I mean? What the positive I'm taking from this is it isn't a loss. And I know that sounds silly, but we lost games. Like, we lost twice to Ipswich last year. Do you know what I mean? We literally lost 2 games to Ipswich last year. We got knocked out of the Cups by Brighton. Do you know what I mean? These are the kind of games that we were losing last year when, you know, the games that you absolutely shouldn't. So as far as me eating lots of copium and looking at the long-term project, seeing us not lose this game, for me, is a positive. It's a very different proposition when you look at your team not winning a game to not losing a game. Do you know what I mean? And we have now passed the okay. We weren't close to losing this game. In fact, we did nearly win it, but we just weren't able to get it over the line. That's a very different prospect from losing to Ipswich. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like you 100% should have at least got a draw out of that game. So there is still progression to be looked at. I've seen a lot of, Chelsea fans and stuff are starting to lose it a little bit because it's like, we really, really should have won this game. We've got Bayern Munich next and Man United and stuff. And it's just like, yes, 100% I agree with that. But like I say, man, for me, this is symptomatic of the kind of season that we were going to have. Your games against your Bayern Munichs and your Man Uniteds that are coming up, like, we've almost, in a little way, got better chances of winning these games. A, because we'll be able to put out stronger 11s, because that's a lot of the reason that a lot of these players didn't start, is because we want to save them for some of these big games. But also, these teams that we're going to be playing, the big teams, they're going to play more forward, fast attacking, aggressive football. They will create spaces. Look at what we did to PSG in the Club World Cup, man. Do you know what I mean? So this is just a call from me to any Chelsea fan that thinks that this is the end of the road. I think that if you think it was the end of the road in terms of a title challenge, like, I just never thought we were there in the first place. I would be really, really happy to see us finish in the Champions League with a couple of games left in the bag, counter to last season where we literally dragged ourselves over the finish line in that game against Nottingham Forest. And I want to see us go reasonably deep in the Champions League, which I think we will based on our group. I think that's a fairly good shout that we can do that. And also have a really good chance at winning a domestic cup. 100%, that is me, what I think that we are capable of achieving. And anything more than that is a massive overachievement. So if we do better, not to say we can't do better than that, because of course we can overachieve. But if we don't at least meet that, that for me would then be underachieving. Do you know what I mean? And we're still so early in the season. There's still so long that can go. I expect there to be more tricky games like this that should be winners. And as long as we're not losing, like if we lose twice to Leeds, do you know what I mean? Or Sunderland or something, like, yeah, okay, do you know what I mean? Then maybe there's a bit more of a problem. But at the end of the day, man, if we can mostly be putting away the games that we're supposed to be putting away, and occasionally we scrape these draws out of them, that's not the end of the world, man. That's not the end of the world. Like I say, look at the long-term project, man. We can't inject enough quality to win the league right now because that isn't how it's being built. It's just literally not how it's being built. So that's kind of what I've got to say about the Brentford game. Yes, I'm disappointed. I'm not going to go into it largely tactically and stuff because, like I say, I wasn't present for the entire game itself, but just talking about the fallout, it's going to be okay. Sure, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. There's obviously many, many, many winnable games coming up. We've actually got a, really tough period just in front of us now. But if we get through that, then we've got lots of winnable games in front of us. So we can pick up form, we can pick up momentum, and I do think things are going to be okay. Also, anyone that's blaming Garnacho for the goal, give your head a shake, man. Give your head a shake. Garnacho is not a 6 foot centre back like the likes of we should have had there. The positives are myriad, man. Like Wesley Fofana's back in the team. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he didn't perform amazingly, but at the end of the day, he's fit enough to start playing again. And if we can get the Wesley Fofana back that we had when things were going well, mate, there's so many reasons to look at all these as positives. So yeah, that's on the Brentford game for me. That is how I feel about that. Yes, it sucks that we didn't win, but we didn't lose, and that if you look at some of the games that we lost last season, that's already an improvement, man. We're in these first 4 games undefeated. That's wicked. So let's keep going. Right, next I would like to address the 74 charges. So I've got my own opinions on this. I've got my own opinions on everything. That's why I started a YouTube channel to talk about Chelsea, right? But the 74 charges, I just don't think is as much of a bigger deal as maybe it's being made out to be, because what's happening, the general discourse, is the comparison between our charges and Man City's charges. And yes, at the end of the day, we're looking at the same sort of charges, and although less, 74 is still a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's still a lot, but there is nuance. There is real nuance to this conversation to be had. And the nuance starts with the nature of how the charges were brought to light, right? So with Man City, it was discovered, right? It was discovered by people investigating, and Man City had been trying to hide it, right? So that's the first thing, is Man City didn't come forward and say, oh, by the way, we think we've done all this wrong. Maybe you could take a look for us. It was like, Man City, we're noticing these things that are wrong in your accounts, and we're gonna approach you, and we're gonna have to talk about it. And obviously, it's been going on for a really long time. But the difference is, A, Man City were discovered, and B, Man City have been adamant from the off that they have done nothing wrong. They are literally saying, point blank, we haven't broken any rules. No, absolutely nothing wrong. Not a single thing wrong. I defy you to comb through our entire things and tell us something we've actually done wrong and laws we've actually broken. So those are the 2 points from City side. From our side, to juxtapose and to compare, when Blueco came in, one of the first things that they did, and we've known about this, man, we've known this is coming. This is not news. We've literally known this is coming. One of the first things that Blueco did was go through all the accounts and then take them to the FA and say, look, we have been digging through the accounts and all of the stuff that's gone on over the last, 15 years or whatever, Roman Abramovich's books and this and that and the other. These are things we found that we think break policies and don't match up and stuff. So the first thing is that we've come forward and said, here is all of what is wrong. Now, it's a lot easier for Chelsea to do that than Man City, because at the end of the day, Chelsea had new owners and they are able to, not play dumb, but, they're able to, plausible deniability, isn't it? It's literally plausible deniability, because they can say, look, we found these things. We know they're wrong. Here you go. Have a look. And they are accepting that there is going to be some form of punishment. Now, there was lots and lots, I mean, this has been going on for such a long time with City. There was lots and lots and lots of conversations from the City side where basically they've made things worse for themselves by resisting, right? They've made it difficult for the investigators to get the documents that they need, and they've pushed back at every turn. Do you know what I mean? And the difference is, even if we are charged with all 74 of these, whatever happens to us will not be as bad as what might have happened to City, unless they win, but that's a completely different story, because we collaborated and worked with the investigation in order to have parity and to put everything out in front of us. So, yes, the charges are there. It is all entirely from the Roman Abramovich era, all of it. It is, there's things like Eden Hazard taking extra payments and Eden Hazard's agent taking extra payments. And there are going to be things for years and years and years. Chelsea have been spending like mad for the last 20 years. Do you know what I mean? So in the old football world, much as it was with Man City, Chelsea won't have done a lot of that legitimately. Do you know what I mean? Not a lot of it, but there will definitely be high profile deals there that got over the line because, think about it, man. Like, we got we got Eden Hazard from Lille for 30 mil. Do you know what I mean? And that seems crazy when you think about it, for how good he was. So, there will have been a lot of under the table deals and bags of money handed that, people weren't declaring and this and that and the other. But like I say, man, because Blueco came in and they've shown ultimately nothing apart from trying to work with the system. Now, that's interesting as a statement in itself, because Blueco have been finding loopholes, in how to get players out on loan and buy players and sell players and all this, that and the other. And obviously the big one was the amortization thing, right? When we got the likes of Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Mykhailo Mudryk, do you know what I mean? All these guys, and we put them on 8-year deals and amortized their contracts over the 8 years so we could split it and make it cheaper on the current books. But ultimately, that wasn't doing anything wrong. It was exploiting a loophole that existed in the system. And as soon as that loophole was closed, you can't do it anymore. So yes, Blueco are a little bit sneaky in how can we exploit all of these systems, but they're not doing anything that you're not actually allowed to do. They're just finding ways, creative accounting ways, to exploit the systems to try and make the best out of them. So there are two very different things in that with Blueco. Do I love it? No, not necessarily, but at the end of the day, it's just what it is, isn't it? And Blueco will not try and exploit these loopholes as long as they are being closed at the end of the day. So what that shows you is Blueco are, to a fault, working within the system. And this is a really, really big part of this, the charges thing. So what could, obviously with City, we've been talking about what could happen. Could they get relegated? Massive points deduction, squad bans, this, that, and the other. We haven't really found out what might happen with them, but whatever we are talking about with City, it's going to be less for Chelsea, even though it's a huge amount of problems, and you can't not punish Chelsea 100%, even though it's a new ownership. You can't just give them carte blanche to be like, no, you're fine because it wasn't your fault, whatever. The club, the institution is guilty allegedly guilty of these 74 charges. That is 100% true, but the nature of which the investigation has been approached has been so different that we are likely to face a lot less of an issue than Man City are if we are to fall on these charges. At the end of the day, if Man City get away with this and they win, they're 115, then we haven't got anything to worry about at all, because a lot of these will be the same things. And arguably, you'd be able to say, well, if City can get away with it, then so can we. But if City are punished for their 115 myriad charges of financial dysregulation or whatever, whatever those punishments are that are going to be for City will be less for us, not even just bearing in mind how many less we have. Do you know what I mean? We're looking at like 40 odd less charges than City have got. But at the same time, even if it was both 115, we would have less punishment than they would. So it will likely be financial. There'll be fines. 100% there'll be fines. Maybe there's a points deduction because we have seen that a couple of times. Obviously, we saw it with Everton, and I think... Was it Forest? Was it Nottingham Forest when they bought all of those players in that one window? So, and Everton appealed and got it, withdrawn and stuff. So at the end of the day, that's, kind of the situation. I'm not particularly worried about it because we've been through this kind of thing before. You got to think we've been stockpiling players, man. We've been stockpiling players. I'm going to get into another one of those in a minute as well. So if we are facing a transfer ban next season, if we're facing a transfer ban next season, then maybe that's why we've been stockpiling all of these players and bringing everyone in, and they're still looking at doing some stuff in January that I'll get into in a minute as well. It wouldn't be the end of the world because when we had a transfer ban, we still finished fourth, and Frank Lampard came in and revolutionised our academy players and put loads of them into the setup and did a really good job, man. He did a really good job. And obviously Enzo Maresca will already have been here a few years with, building the squad that he wants. And yeah, it might be a case of like, we can't go out and spend huge amounts or whatever because we've got a transfer ban. So if the worst thing that happens is a transfer ban, okay, maybe that puts our title challenge back a season or so until we can really go out there and start spending again. But as we've seen before, we've had a transfer ban and it wasn't the end of the world, and we still did pretty well in that season. In fact, it was the season after when we were allowed to start spending money again. That's when things went wrong. Do you know what I mean? When we bought in Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, and they both just were rubbish, man. They were both rubbish. So, look, it already doesn't look terrible. So that's kind of my piece on the 74 charges, right? The 74 charges, I'm not particularly worried about. Because, again, for me, I'm a big picture guy, right? I'm looking at the long term. I already don't think we're going to win the Premier League this season. I think that more deals will be done in January to fill out maybe, the centre-backs and goalkeepers that I'll get into in a minute. Those are the spots that we're kind of worried about. And we've got another striker coming in now, which I will also get into in a minute. We've got loads of wingers. We've got loads of midfielders. Just a few of them are injured at the moment. We've still got loads of people out on loan. Do you know what I mean? That's not a problem either. So even if we had a transfer ban next season, we've got a massive squad. And as long as we can sort the injury stuff out, things might not look so bad. So with all of that said, I will move on to what is the positive element of today's video and my return to form, if you will. So... Emegha has 100% signed his pre-agreement to join Chelsea at the end of the season. Now, that is wicked. He looks great, man. 22-year-old, 6'5" Dutch striker. Awesome. He's kind of like Jackson in the way that he plays. Like, he's quite mobile and likes to drift out a little bit. And, 14 goals last season for Strasbourg at 21 years old is really, really, really good. And ultimately, he looks to be right now a better proposition than Liam Delap, I would say. He looks like a little bit more advanced. And next season, that will mean that we've got João Pedro, Emegha, and Liam Delap all available to play number 9, barring injuries. I reckon Marc will probably get sold at the end of the season. We'll see what happens with that. But Emegha looks wicked, man, and that's something we should really be excited about. I mentioned it in a video a little while ago about us being in for him, and I actually will I'll tag that video at the end of this one. Go and check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, look, transfer window's over, but we're still getting stuff done. Emegha looks good. It is a shame. So one thing I've talked about quite a lot as well, vis-a-vis the multi-club model, is I like it as long as it doesn't ruin like fan culture and, basically make these clubs that have long storied histories academy teams, right? And already Strasbourg fans are not happy about this. So they unveiled a banner at the last Strasbourg game, basically not exactly in favour of Emegha because of his proposed move to Chelsea. Now, at the end of the day, if he keeps scoring goals for them this season, do you know what I mean? Like, they'll be happy with that. And Blueco are not just going to rip him out and not find a decent replacement because they've been putting a lot of time into Strasbourg as well, man. You've got to say, a lot of players have gone there. Yes, lots of them have been Chelsea players, but they've been selling and they've been buying outside of the Chelsea sphere as well. So I think Emegha looks wicked. I'm very excited to have him in the team. Yes, it's a year away. It'd be great if we could have him now, obviously, because of our striker situation. But this is what I'm talking about, building for the future, man. So, aside from that, the other two little news deals that it's not massive, like, no, not loads and loads and loads of reports, but they keep on coming up. So I'm just going to talk about them because if we got both of them over the line, I'd be pretty happy. So it is 2 free transfers we're looking at. And we are looking at signing 2 pre-agreements in January for 2 players that we have talked about quite a lot already. One of which is Maignan, the French goalkeeper of AC Milan. We tried to get him before the Club World Cup. They wanted like 20 plus mil, and we were like, nah, here's 8. And they were like, nope. So that didn't end up happening. They were convinced that they were going to be able to get Maignan to sign a new contract. But it looks like we might be going back in for him in January. And not to bring him into the club straight away, as far as I've seen, but to get him to sign a pre-agreement contract, with Chelsea. Because when you've only got 6 months left on your deal, you're able to then sign a pre-agreement, essentially. And you can, 6 months before you move, you can sign with another club. So he might well stay at AC Milan for the rest of the season. I guess largely it depends on the Robert Sanchez thing, because if we're able to go back in with like 5 mil or something and be like, we'll take him now, and they've got a ready replacement for him, and they're already knowing that he's going to be out of the club or whatever, maybe that's something that can happen. But ultimately, it looks like we're going to go back in for Maignan we're going to go in for him in January to get him next season. And same story, potentially, for Marc Guehi. I think that's a great move, man. I really, really wanted to see us go in for Marc Guehi, especially with how little the price was that they were looking at before. The thing is, Palace did the right thing for them by keeping him. Now, ultimately, what they did by keeping him was miss out on the money they'd get for him, because they were going to get 35 mil, I think it was 35 mil for Marc Guehi, and that's so low because he's at the end of his contract. And obviously the Liverpool deal fell through right at the last minute because Palace couldn't find a replacement for him in time for the window. So although there was the here we go and it was all agreed and whatever, and he was ready to go to Liverpool, it fell through because Palace couldn't find a replacement for him. Now, the situation that they've put themselves in is they are now looking like they're probably going to lose Marc Guehi on a free, because Marc Guehi can also sign a pre-contract agreement with another club in January. And if all is to be believed, it sounds like Chelsea are going to go in and try to make that happen. So, will he just go to Liverpool? Now, I don't know, man. The thing is, it might be one of them, innit? If Liverpool need a centre-back in January and they don't want to wait another 6 months for Marc Guehi, then they might just go and buy one. Do you know what I mean? It's not out of the realms of possibility that Marc Guehi could come to Chelsea. And because it would be a free contract, maybe we could put him on a bit of a decent deal as well to match some of the better players because he's a bit more experienced. We'd have to see what happens. But ultimately, I'd be very happy to see Marc Guehi back in a Chelsea shirt. And I have always backed that since we've been talking about it on this channel. So, guys, my throat is so dry, man. I haven't done this for a week and I'm already like, I've forgotten how to talk for 20 minutes. So, guys, I'm going to wrap the video up there. What I haven't done at all in this video is ask for your opinion. I'd love to know what you think about all of the things that I've talked about today. How do you feel about the Brentford game? Do you agree with me? I don't really think we should be worried about it, to be completely honest, because for me, this is par for the course. This is kind of what the sort of season I expected us to have. And obviously, we're still very early in. Things could change, but it is the fact that it's not a loss to Brentford, whereas we lost, like I said, the games to Ipswich last season. Like, for me, that's already a positive. Second of all, are you worried about the 74 charges? Again, really not really worried, man. It's like, it seems scary on the front of it, but when you break it down and look into the nuance and compare it to City's situation, we've been in a situation before where we've had a transfer ban. I don't think we're going to get like enormous, massive point deductions from it. Like I say, just because of the nature of how we've approached it, we brought it forward and we haven't tried to hide anything. So let me know what you think about that. And finally, the 3 players that we're looking at bringing in, well, not looking at, we are bringing in Emegha. That is signed, sealed, delivered, and he will be available to us next summer. And Marc Guehi and Maignan may be going into some smart deals on pre-contract agreements to get them on free transfers at the end of next year. I think it's smart. I like both of the players. If we can get Maignan on a free, I'm not going to complain. And I don't really want to overpay for him. But ultimately, largely, my opinion will change depending on how well Sanchez does leading up to January or even for the rest of the season. So, guys, I'm going to wrap the video up there. It is great to be back. I hope this video finds some people and YouTube hasn't absolutely killed my algorithm. But I can't wait to talk to you guys again. And there's going to be a lot more coming, right? They've got the Bayern Munich game coming up. We've got the obviously, the Man United game coming up as well, not even that long after that. I am working on new videos. Mike, I asked a question and you guys have spoken, so I will be doing a Who's the Better Baller decided by you guys in my posts. I'll be posting a couple more of them soon, so let me know who else you want to see me do this with. Nice one, guys. I hope you're all having an absolutely wicked day. I can't wait to catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.